you've got this scenario where in the Middle East right now, the events in Rafah and elsewhere, obviously a humanitarian disaster in many respects. The Prime Minister of Israel conceding it was a tragic mistake, that first airstrike. The argument is, and as Josh Burns put it eloquently, you can be critical of the Israeli government and the Israeli authorities for what they're doing. It's got nothing to do with a 12-year-old kid going to school in Melbourne.
Absolutely. It's got nothing to do with Jewish Australians. I mean, we don't hold, and nor should we don't hold Syrian Australians responsible for the crimes of Bashar al-Assad. We don't hold Afghan Australians responsible for what the Taliban does in Afghanistan. And this is the same here in Australia. We should not be holding... We can have whatever views we want about Israel's government and the conduct of their war, and I appreciate there are different views about this, but we shouldn't be saying that Jewish Australians are somehow vicariously responsible for that, because doing so is just a recipe for the importation of civil strife and civil conflict, and it will tear at the very heart of our success as a diverse society.
On the conflict itself, if we look to that, it does look like the Netanyahu government now, if we look at that sort of broader international level, those that have been wanting to support Israel are finding it increasingly hard to, given the events of recent days.
Look, I think there's no doubt that the Israeli government has attracted more criticism, and it's clear that they've made some mistakes in the prosecution of this war. Netanyahu admitted one just last night. But this is a very difficult war environment. I mean, the reason the IDF is going into Rafah is because Hamas remains there. I mean, rockets are still being fired from Rafah. Hostages are potentially still being held in Rafah.
And they do use civilians as human shields as well.
Exactly. So hostages and civilians are all part of the human shields around Hamas. This is how they choose to fight. And, the easiest way for this conflict to end is for Hamas to release the hostages and lay down its weapons. But until that happens, or until such time as that they consider doing that, I don't see how Israel has a choice but to continue seeking to recover its hostages and defeat Hamas. It's a terrible situation, I don't doubt it, but I don't see an easy resolution to it unless Hamas does the right thing here.
Liberal Senator, former Ambassador to Israel, Dave Sharma, thanks as always.
Thanks so much, Kieran.